It's episode number 12 of the Keto for Women show. You're listening to the Keto for Women show, and I'm your host and nutritionist, Shawn Miner. This show is designed to empower women to find their own expression of the keto diet to maximize their health and happiness. Now let's get started with today's episode. Hey, all my friends out there. Hope you're having an amazing day today. I'm just finishing up from a pretty awesome weekend, spending lots of time outside. It's been super nice here in Colorado, a little warm, but when you head a little further into the mountains, it's gorgeous. So I did that this weekend, had a lot of downtime, time away from my computer and my email and my Instagram. I mean, I love doing all of that stuff so much, and that's part of the reason why I have the business that I have, but it's always nice to get away for a day or two and just kind of relax and restore yourself and see something other than a computer screen or a phone screen occasionally. So that was really fun. I ended up going on a pretty darn long, pretty intense hike yesterday. It felt really good. Again, like I mentioned a few episodes ago when I did the 14er, didn't need any food or any snacks along the way. I was totally fat fueled, 100%. I made it 8.5 miles, 24,000 steps, 2,000 feet in elevation gain, which is, I think my phone said it was 76, 86 floors, something like that. So quite a ways up. Totally on the ketone production, no need for food. I did have breakfast in the morning. I had some eggs and veggies and cream in my coffee. And then I went on my way and probably didn't eat for another probably 7-8 hours after that. So definitely fueled by something other than food, which is always amazing. Love it when that happens. So today we're doing another episode of listener Q&A, which are pretty much my favorite ones because then I know that I'm answering the questions that you guys really want to hear. So I love getting questions. I love answering them. I will probably make this a more frequent thing that happens here on Keto for Women so that I can get through all of these questions that I'm getting and not get backlogged like I currently am, but should be able to get through those in the next month or so, and then we can take some new ones. So if you do have questions for me, make sure you email them to info@ketoforwomenshow.com. That's info@ketoforwomenshow.com. If you send them to my other email or on Facebook or on Instagram, they won't make the list because I no longer manage the list. My assistant Jenny does. So she needs to see those questions so that she can organize them for me. And they have to go to that email in order to do that. As much as I'd love to take them from all these different places and be able to put them into one spot, it's not going to happen. So make sure you are sending your questions to that one place, and I am happy to answer them when they are sent to that email. Quickly, before we get started on your questions, I do want to take a few minutes at the beginning of this episode, which I've been teasing now for the past few episodes, to talk specifically about the Fat Burning Female Project. I know I mention it in pretty much every episode as to who would be good for it or what we actually do in there, but it's kind of on the fly and just something that I say in the moment as I'm passionately answering or talking about something specific. But I do want to now take a few minutes here to talk about that in more detail because we do have a new class coming up pretty quickly here. If you are listening to this when it airs or around the date that this episode airs, we will have early enrollment starting this coming Wednesday, September 6th. And then basically early enrollment happens until those specific number of spots are filled. And then we move on to the regular enrollment price. Now, I must say, maybe I'm biased. I might be biased with this entire class and everything I'm about to say, but either price point is honestly a really good investment in your health and a really good deal for the amount of time you get to spend with me and have access to me for all of your questions. Even if they're specific questions to you and your situation, if they're posted on the Facebook group, I will answer them. And to be a part of the group that you are in with these most amazing women on the planet. They're in that Facebook group as well, doing the same thing as you are at the same time, or even from past Fat Burning Female Project classes, who can also help you, give you their advice, give you their experience when they went through it. But just to have that community of women doing the same thing that you are, trying to regain your health, trying to do it the right way, trying to learn more about yourself, and going through some struggles and going through some great successes, but doing those all together and getting the support, the encouragement, and being in that fun environment while you're doing it is honestly, in my opinion, priceless. And I'm the one answering the questions, but I can imagine as someone being a participant, how incredibly important that is to your overall success to have this community. So just being in that and just having that, honestly, I think is quite priceless and totally worth the investment that you will make to be in the class. More than worth it. And that's not including everything that's actually in the course and what you would actually be learning and doing and all that stuff, which I'll just go over now since I'm talking about it. So the class is a 6-week online course. We all start at the same time. So the Friday before class starts, you get access to day 1 materials. So you do have the weekend to prep and plan and do all that kind of thing. So we start on Monday, September 18th, which means Friday, September 15th, you are getting access to week 1 materials and some prep materials as well. And then every Friday after that for 6 weeks, you get access to new materials as they come up for that particular week. These materials include videos, audio lessons by me, of course. I'm in your ear all 6 weeks. And then for the first 4 weeks, when we are getting into ketosis, slowly, safely, methodically, with enough food, with our health as our number one priority, you are getting access to my specific system that I created just for this class that will undoubtedly get you into ketosis if you follow it the right way, the healthy way, and the safe way. I have created this so it also isn't super hard to track. It isn't intense. It doesn't involve math or numbers or calculators or percentages or grams or calories or anything like that. You don't have to worry about that. I've done the work for you. All you have to do is essentially color in some blocks, which is really nice, and maybe look at a chart occasionally. So because when I first started this course, I knew I needed, in order to make sure that these women were getting into ketosis the right way and safely, I knew I needed a way to track macros, essentially. But I know that it can be very triggering from my own past experience of being on MyFitnessPal, and just before that even existed, before there were apps and things like that, I had a little diary of everything I ate and the calorie content and fat grams and all that stuff. So I know how obsessive it can be to suddenly turn your food into numbers and then not be able to get out of that. And I don't want that for anyone else ever again. So I made this really nice, easy to follow, not controlling system to make sure you're getting into ketosis, but not make you obsessive about it and not make you overthink it or have to calculate. So that was the most important thing to developing this class, and the thing I spent the most effort on in trying to make this really simple for ladies out there. So you have access to that for the first 4 weeks. By then, you will either be a fat burner, you'll be in ketosis, or you will be very, very close. And then we work on making it a lifestyle, making it more of an intuitive sense, a way for you to get away from having to track anything. Use your intuition, use the knowledge that you gained over the first 4 weeks about yourself to then make it a lifestyle and just kind of go with it, and know that some days are going to be different than others, but you have your general template of where you feel really good. You know how much fat should be on your plate in order to be in ketosis and stay in ketosis, how much protein works for you, how many carbs work for you. You have all that information, and then you can kind of ride with it. And so we work on that the last few weeks of the class before the course ends. in each of these 6 weeks, you're also, like I mentioned, getting lessons, quote unquote lessons, learning more about why we want to be in ketosis, what the benefits of being fat adapted are, why we need fat in our diets, what your reasons for being in the class are. So more about you and your personal health, if you should be fasting, if you should not be fasting. I'm just giving you a nice breakdown of why you're doing what you're doing, so you have a good reason for being there and what you're trying to do, and learning more about why you're doing what you're doing. So that comes with it. In each week, there is a specific lesson that we're working on. Intuitive eating, self-care, self-love, those are all big pieces towards the end when we are working on making it a lifestyle. That's really, really important to everything I teach. Is you have to love yourself and accept yourself and appreciate what your body is trying to do for you in being healthy and getting healthier to healthier in order to actually make this all work and in order for you to have grace with yourself. So that's really something I love teaching and something that is in the class towards the end. And then, like I said, we have this private Facebook group, which you are always a member of. You're also always a member of the course, so you can go back through it a million times if you want. You can get all the updates as I update the class and move forward. You are always in this little tribe we have going of fat burning females. The Facebook group, like I said, invaluable. I am in there multiple times per day, answering any and all questions that people have, or just providing support, encouragement, whatever these ladies need. I am there for you for 6 weeks and beyond, of course, as you are now in the group forever, lifetime access. So I think that's really huge and really something I wasn't in the beta test group of this class at the beginning of the year. I didn't even have in the project. I didn't even put that in because I really wanted to try to get people away from social media. But in the middle of that course, I realized that we needed a little bit of a community. So I created the group in the middle of our beta test launch, and it has been the most valuable thing by far. And it's not something where you have to spend all your hours now scrolling through Facebook in order to get there. It's such a support system that it's totally worth spending a few more minutes on your phone in order to get your questions answered and to provide support to others and see what others are going through and what they're looking to heal. And so it's definitely worth it, even though I'm not a huge social media fan and I'd love for us to be outside more, or go on walks or whatever. It really is just a few more minutes of your day that will really, really provide the support and encouragement you need. We also have 2 live calls in the class. So 2nd week and 5th week, I gather all of the questions that you guys have that may take more than a typed answer, and I get on a call for an hour, although now it's been taking a little bit longer because I'm a little wordy and we have lots of awesome questions. So all questions will be answered in that hour 15 minutes live, and I'm doing it live. I'm also recording it, so if you can't make it live, then you will have the recording to listen to whenever it's convenient for you. So it's basically kind of like this podcast, except much more focused and detailed on what you and your peers are going through at that particular moment in the class. Again, lots of value there, and just knowing what you're doing, getting answers to questions, having things laid out specifically for you and your friends in Fat Burning Female. So that's really important too. Now let's go on to who and who should not be doing it, because I get a lot of questions about this, and specifically because it seems like people assume that the Fat Burning Female Project is only for women who have not done ketosis before, or are just starting out on this journey, or not sure if they want to do it, or whatever it may be. And that is not the case. I would say about 75 to 80% of the ladies in the class have tried ketosis before, or are currently trying to do ketosis, maybe are even in ketosis. So that group is definitely very prominent in that class. They just want more support in doing so, and they want to make sure they're doing it correctly. So that's the difference, because there is a lot of, and this is kind of one of the downfalls, honestly, of keto, I think for women specifically, is unfortunately we can do it wrong. We can do it very, very wrong. And then we're kind of digging ourselves a little deeper instead of doing what we want to do and healing our bodies we're potentially not doing that because we haven't done it the right way and taken the time to understand what is right, what is wrong, how we feel, what we should be eating, what our plates look like, how much food is the right amount of food, how much fat is the right amount of fat, proteins, carbs, all that stuff. Those questions are answered. And quite honestly, the questions that I get from you as listeners, so much of those are answered right in that class because we're taking the guesswork out of it. We're taking the macros that you should be eating out of it. We're taking the amount of food you should be eating out of it. We're finding out why we're doing it. We're getting in a bigger picture of what our health looks like and what we're trying to heal. So it doesn't have to be someone that's just starting on this journey. You could have been on this journey for years. You could have been trying keto. You could be doing keto on and off, whatever it may be, and you will still get a ton of benefit out of that class because now you have the support, you have the knowledge, you have a group of ladies doing the exact same thing that you always will be friends with from now on, that you can always kind of bounce ideas off of. So the community is really important too. The people that I mainly have geared this class for when I was creating the project is for those with like any sort of hormonal issue, whether that be adrenal, other hormonal imbalances with their sex hormones, which we went over in the last episode number 11. So you can go back and listen to that. And if you haven't, and if any of those sound like something you might be going through, the class was made for you. Thyroid imbalances are also really important. If you have even like digestive distress, a lot of digestion issues can actually be resolved with a keto diet. If you are pregnant or nursing, yes, even you are made for this class, surprisingly, but we have found that women often do really, really well on a keto diet when they are pregnant or trying to get pregnant. Super, super important little point there. Trying to get pregnant, if you're working on your fertility, a must to be in this class. Even with nursing, like we had Leah on a few episodes ago, also showing to be really, really important and a huge benefit for that nursing relationship with your baby. If you are someone in menopause, we have lots of women that are past the point of menopause, so in their 50s and 60s that are in the class. Really, I'd say the age range of the fat-burning females are probably 22, 21 to 65, maybe even 70. So there is a wide range of women in the class. So menopause would not be a reason for you not to be in that. And like we talked about last week with the hormone episode, just because you're in menopause doesn't mean that your hormones suddenly don't need to be healed. There's still a lot of healing and a lot of balancing that can be done within menopause that will make you feel even better. So it's not something like all of a sudden we don't have to worry about anything when we're in menopause, which would be awesome, but unfortunately that's never the case. If you are someone that has PCOS, again, like we talked about last week, no brainer, get in this class for sure, no question. Insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, diabetes, any of those, yes, no brainer, get into the course. I get a lot of questions of, well, I would like to be in the class, but I'm going to be traveling, or I have my birthday party, or I have this or that in that 6-week time frame, so should I not? And I'm the kind of person that wants you to make this a lifestyle, and that's why I'm creating this course. So in that case, my answer would be, you're going to be traveling and you're going to have a birthday in the rest of your life, right? So why don't you work now with someone and in this class to figure out how to make this work while you're traveling, or what to do if things go awry and you have half a birthday cake on your birthday? What do you do then? So having someone and really a whole group helping you navigate that part of your life while trying to be keto is even more of a reason to be in the class. So if anything, I would encourage people who have other plans in those 6 weeks, now is the time to do it, because you can see how it can work in your real life scenarios, or what to do if it doesn't work, how to get back on track. I would say probably at least half of the fat burning females that have gone through the class in the past year, half have been traveling or something going on in the 6 weeks at least. So it's definitely something that we talk quite a bit about. We give guidance and ideas of how to make it work, and then we'll support you if things go awry. No problem. We will get you back on track. I've also gotten questions about if someone doesn't have a gallbladder, if they should. And yes, absolutely. We do also talk quite a bit about supplementation and what supplements are absolutely needed if you are going to make the transition to ketosis. So having, again, that support and guidance with someone who knows how to help you with no gallbladder is really important too, instead of just trying to navigate this on your own. So really, as you can see, I'm pretty much talking to every lady out there. However, there are definitely those ladies where maybe this isn't the right time for you to join the Fat Burning Female Project. Those ladies would be those who are still looking for the next quick fix or diet trend or fad or whatever you want to call it. If you are not ready to make this a life change that will really require you to focus on your health first. If you are looking for something to help you lose the next 10 pounds or make your tight jeans fit a little looser, that may come in the 6 weeks, or it may come after the 6 weeks are over. But I really am trying to make this class focus on more than just weight. Because now we know, especially over the past 2 episodes, if you've listened to those and all of the other reasons why we as women gain weight or cannot lose weight besides just diet, we know that really weight gain or inability to lose weight, weight loss resistance, is a symptom of something else. A symptom of something else going on. It is not keto's fault. It is not whatever the other diet's fault you're doing. You need to heal your body in order for that to regulate itself. And until you do that, if you keep focusing on that symptom only, you're not going to truly get there. You're not going to get there and stay there pretty darn effortlessly. Okay. So I really don't think it's the right time for you to join the Fat Burning Female Project if you're not ready to look a little deeper, go into the idea of healing your hormones or your thyroid or your adrenals or your digestive situations or whatever you need to heal that is the reason for your weight loss resistance or your weight gain. Now, there are, of course, some situations like I've talked about where weight gain is something that potentially has caused another issue. And if that's the case, then you may lose weight while transitioning to keto. That may be kind of one of those things that some weight does need to come off in order for you to heal. But there are others where you need to heal and then you will lose weight. But as long as you can find a bigger reason and another why of why you're doing ketosis beyond what the scale says, because really that's completely irrelevant in most cases, then let's do it. Become a fat burning female, have me at your side, guiding you along the way. Be part of this awesome community of women that are all doing the same thing, all working on healing very similar things. If you have something that's maybe very specific to you that you're working on, I can almost guarantee there's someone else in the class already that has a similar situation. So you can find community there. And yeah, let's just have fun. It is the most fun. I absolutely adore it. If I could just sit on Facebook all day and answer your questions, I totally would. But it's a great time. We have a really good community and we've made lots of friends. And I'm pretty sure in 2018 there will be a fat burning female retreat that you guys, it's going to be so fun because we're all friends at this point. Now we just need to go on vacation together and eat a bunch of keto foods, right? So I have a feeling that will be happening. Okay. I talked way longer than I thought about that, but super important. And I hope that cleared it up. I hope it makes it pretty obvious as to what goes on in that class and what you can expect and what your investment will be getting you. Now, let's talk about that really quick. So as of September 6th, when early enrollment opens, the price of the class will be $297. That gets you everything I just told you, all that stuff for $297, which is an amazing deal. As soon as those spots are filled, which last time took a matter of maybe 2 days, I don't remember, but it was very short, then it moves up to $397. Again, still an amazing deal, a steal of a deal, if I will say, but it does go up by $100. So if you want to get in for sure, you want to be part of the next class, which starts again September 18th, with course materials being delivered September 15th, then you will probably want to hop on September 6th and reserve your spot so that you can get that lowered price. And then, if you wait a couple days and you see that the price is higher, it's just because those spots have been filled. And then it does have a cap, so there will be a time of total sellout. Again, I don't know when that happens. Last course, it happened within a week. So if you want to do the class, do not wait. It's definitely something where the sooner you can jump on and reserve your spot, the better. You can do that at bit.ly/fatburningfemale. That's bit.ly/fatburningfemale. And I will have a link in the show notes to do that. Before September 6th, you'll just see kind of what's already there, and there will be no place to reserve your spot. And then as of early morning, September 6th, you will see that changes and you can enroll. So that will be the difference. And then you can go ahead and get in on the project. It's going to be a blast. Another great thing about this particular class is that obviously we will go through end of September into October, and we will end being fat burning females right when all the holiday season picks up. So we'll know how to navigate that. We'll feel really good. We'll be in ketosis. We'll be fat burners, and it will make a huge difference just to navigate that. And then we can also have the support of each other in the group during those holidays to get through it and make the best choices for ourselves, see what happens when we don't and how we can get back on track and just really be one big community helping each other out. So, okay. Let's move on, shall we? Let's move on to some questions that you all have asked. Again, I'm getting phenomenal questions. Love them all. I am sifting through them, and at this point, really looking for those questions that I know a lot of people have, because I want to, of course, serve as many people as I can in one episode. And so that's what I'm currently looking for. So if you have a question where you think you're not the only one that doesn't know the answer or wants more clarification, send it along and I will answer. Let's get going. I have two questions that are asking a similar question. So I will read them both and then we will answer it. This one, number one, is good morning. I know that episode 3 was about hormones, but I was wondering if you could go more in depth into hypothyroidism. I've heard that it is not the best for people with hypothyroidism. I'm assuming it is keto. Can you elaborate on this topic? Is it true? Would a higher carb keto diet be a better option? I have hypothyroidism and just want to make sure I am not hurting myself further. I would love to get off of Synthroid. Okay, so we have that one, and then we have a kind of a similar one with a little bit more detail that I actually do love the detail of this question, so I think it really ties into the answer, so I'm going to read the whole thing. It's from Alex, and she says, really enjoying your new podcast and learning more about keto. I don't currently follow a keto diet specifically, but I do eat mostly low-carb paleo, and I'm hoping you can answer a question I have. I'm 24 and have been dealing with lots of various health issues lately: post-pill amenorrhea, cortisol dysregulation, candida, SIBO, and hair loss due to presumably a combination of these things. I've been working with a naturopathic doctor to heal my gut and hormones, and while my digestive health feels a lot better these days, my hormones still need work. My question is related to my current diet and how it might be affecting my thyroid. I was put on anti-candida diet and a low FODMAP diet to help heal my gut, which is how I transitioned to eating paleo. During that time, I learned a lot about the benefits of reducing carbs and eating more healthy fats and protein. So my diet now is predominantly vegetables, animal proteins, healthy fats, nuts, and berries. I don't regularly track macros, but I did one day to get a general idea of what I'm getting nutrition-wise and found that I ate about 75 grams of carbs, 50 grams of net carbs, 110 grams of fat, and 80 grams of protein. I feel good eating this way, but about a month into this, I got my thyroid test and found my T3 levels had dropped substantially. Total T3 was 0.6, free T3 was 1.9. My TSH was 2.91 and my free T4 was 1.08. My doctor says I'm hypothyroid and put me on NatureThyroid. My question is, could my reduction in carbs have caused this? Do I need to eat more carbs, more fat? Any advice you can give would be super appreciated. If it's relevant, I'm 5'2" and weigh 113. Thanks, Alex. Okay. The topic of hypothyroidism and keto. What a great topic. Something I touched on a little bit last week when I was talking about the thyroid, but I don't think I specifically mentioned kind of some of the naysayers out there or why they might be saying keto is bad for thyroid, if it's actually true, all of that good stuff. So let's go through that. In general, the reason that there are some people saying that a low carb diet is bad for your thyroid is because they are right. A low carb diet is bad for your thyroid, mainly because it's low calorie, to be honest. That's probably the reason why that's happening. But remember, a ketogenic diet is not a low carb diet. It's a high fat, moderate protein, low carb ketogenic diet. There's a huge difference between just saying low carb diet and all of that I just said about keto, right? That's a big difference. And that's where people go wrong. And if you actually look at the naysayers and at the studies, most of them are literally just taking out carbs and saying that there was a significant change in thyroid function. But of course, because we definitely know, and I can definitely tell you that low calories, if you are at a calorie deficit, you are going to have a thyroid hit. No question. You need to have adequate calories to sustain a normal thyroid function because, again, when we calorie restrict, we're telling our body that conserve, slow everything down. We don't know when more energy is coming in. We don't have enough energy coming in to sustain our bodies. So like be on alert, essentially, like downplay all function and save your energy. And that's really what our thyroid is. It's kind of our energy driver. It's our gas pedal per se. And if you are really restricting food, then yeah, your gas pedal is going to slow down so that your body can conserve energy. So really, when we say low carb diets are bad for the thyroid, and we do see a reduction in thyroid hormone, it's because it's too low calorie. And in the case of Alex here, her diet is pretty darn low calorie. I totaled what she said she ate. I calculated it up, and it was about 1,600 calories. And as a woman looking to have amazing health, which it sounds like Alex is trying to do, that's why she's going through all this, seeing her doctor regularly, getting on these diets, doing all this testing, she's committed to her health. And if you're committed to your health, you cannot sustain a really nice, healthy body and heal everything you want to heal on 1,600 calories. So I would more so bet that when Alex went to a low FODMAP, anti-candida protocol, she dropped her calories. And even she was only looking at one day, I would not be surprised if her calories are lower on more days that she didn't actually total it up into MyFitnessPal or whatever she was using. So it's not the carbs fault or the change in carbs necessarily. It's the change in the amount of food. Now, what Alex could easily do, and it would take care of it entirely, is to just significantly increase her fat. So right now she's at 110 grams of fat, not enough to be in a ketogenic state, especially with having 75 grams of carbs. So she's definitely more of a kind of quote unquote paleo macro. That's kind of what I see most paleo people. That's their kind of macro content, which is great. But if you do want to work on your thyroid, then you need to either eat more food in total and just have a higher food diet, and you can still stay in this paleo template. That's totally cool. But if you want to actually go keto, you need to significantly increase your fat, lower the protein a little bit, probably, at least for now, and then lower the carbs for now too. You may go back up and you may see that you can tolerate 75 grams of carbs, 50 of which are net. But in order to get into ketosis, you will probably need a lower amount. Now, I'm not going to give specific macros for Alex to follow because, again, it's not really something I do, not something I agree with. Just getting people into that number as food mode, I do not like. That's the first thing, is that most of the time when we are in a hypothyroid state, even if you are someone that is keto, it is more so that you need to look at your calorie content and make sure that you are eating enough food. That's the bigger question, besides like, is keto not right for me because it's too high fat and too low carb and it's causing this disruption in my thyroid? Most of the time it's not that. It's just that when you switch to ketosis, you went to low calorie. That's the bigger picture. If you are someone that has been on the web whatsoever and you Google, is ketosis bad for thyroid or whatever, you may see some people that say, yes, it is. But again, what they are looking at is, first of all, there is a little bit of a need for glucose in order to convert free T4, which is your inactive thyroid hormone, to free T3, which is your active thyroid hormone. That process, that conversion process, does require a little bit of glucose. However, like I've mentioned before, and like the coolest thing about our bodies is that we will have that glucose in our blood no matter what, whether you're in ketosis or not. Our liver produces glucose by way of gluconeogenesis no matter what diet we're on. So we are getting that glucose hit that we need in order for the conversion to happen already, regardless of what kind of diet you're eating. So that's one thing that's just kind of like, that's not actually true. We don't actually need carbs to convert T4 to T3. We just need glucose. Different story. Okay. That's the first thing. The second thing is that there are some studies, like I mentioned, that show low carbohydrate diets are not good for your thyroid or lower T3 production. And what those studies have done is, first of all, they've not gotten them into ketosis. That's the biggest thing, is they're not actually in ketosis, which is a totally different concept, which we'll talk about. But they also fed them pretty darn rancid, terrible, inflammatory fats. So they were PUFA diets, which stands for polyunsaturated fatty acids. They were PUFA-based high-fat diets. And really, by high fat, I mean like it was like 55%, I think, fat, which we know that ketogenic diets are more like 75, 80, 85% fat. Those studies had 55% of primarily PUFA fats, and those are like grapeseed oil, canola oil, soybean oil. These oils that we know are just not good for our bodies. Our bodies do not know how to process those oils. They are often very damaged and very rancid by the time we even eat those oils, as was also the case in these studies. So they're kind of, in my opinion, because I'm someone that's so focused on getting the right foods and the nutrient dense foods that we need in our diet, that's just as important as the macro calculations we need. We also need highly nutrient dense foods to really get to our maximum healthiness. And feeding and doing a study without those foods kind of just makes it irrelevant to me. It kind of is just something that I'm not really going to take to heart and give it all that much credit. So that's another thing. But keep in mind, like I said, those studies, they weren't getting these participants into ketosis. And that's really the difference, because we have found that ketosis, and I have found this just in the fat burning female participants and even in my one-on-one clients, when those people are actually truly in ketosis, then we actually see a lot of thyroid healing happen. This could be on several levels. It could be reduction in inflammation is a big one. Healing the adrenals is another big one, which I hope I don't forget to talk about that because that's important. And taking away the stress. So I've mentioned in the past, one of the biggest reasons why I'm such a fan of ketone production and getting into ketosis is because it does tell your body that everything's okay. Homeostasis happens. We can start the healing process. We know we have plenty of energy. around to burn through, and it just really provides this sense of calm in your body. And that's when inflammation decreases, your immune system regulates. So if it is a case where you are hypothyroid because of an autoimmune disease, so if you have Hashimoto's, again, we are working on the inflammation, which is often a driver of Hashimoto's, and we are working on your immune system regulation, which is for sure a driver of Hashimoto's. So we can downregulate that and really get you in a nice sustained state of remission. One thing to also remember, which I'm glad I remembered to go back to because this is an important one, is I would say, gosh, probably 95, no, maybe even 100% of the time when you are hypothyroid, it is at least partially, if not totally, because of your adrenal health. If your body is stressed out, if you have adrenal dysfunction, if you have high cortisol, low cortisol, wherever stage of adrenal fatigue you are in, you will see it impact your thyroid. And especially as in the case with Alex, first of all, just calorie restriction in itself is a huge stressor on your body, but also everything else she has been through with her gut health and having to be on these diets and having to restrict food, all of that is stress on the body. And I would be shocked if her adrenals didn't also need some love. So quite often it's actually the root cause is your adrenal health, which again, we go back to stress if that's the case. And you really have to work on that. So for Alex, of course, that reduction in carbs and calories and everything was definitely a stressor, especially since she's not in ketosis. She's not eating a ketogenic diet. A keto diet is a stress-free diet, whereas low carb is not. A low carb diet is a stressful diet. So big difference again with the differences there. But just also time to look at how she's actually doing with managing her stress and even, her physiological stress that's happening with the gut and everything, but her emotional stress, her mental stress, her work stress, her life stress, all that stuff. If you have hypothyroid, you have to look there. You absolutely must. You will not heal your thyroid and get your hormone levels back up to what you want them to be if you're still dealing with some sort of stressor and if your adrenals are taking the hit because of that. So that's really important. So some of the other reasons why you may see a change in your thyroid numbers, your thyroid hormone numbers when you do switch, even if you are doing ketosis. First of all, if you have weight loss, if you are someone that as soon as you got into ketosis started dropping weight, which is not everybody, that is not an automatic thing. But if you are someone that has happened to, then just having that weight loss would be a trigger for lower thyroid production. Now that will level itself out once you stop losing weight or you start slowing your weight loss down. Another reason is if you are in the transitional phase to getting into ketosis when you're not quite in this nice, awesome state of ketone production, but you're still like training too hard or not sleeping enough, you're not taking care of your body, not taking the time to slow down to allow your body to transition into that state of ketosis, you could see a slightly lower T3 and or T4 during that time too. So again, it would be a sign to take things a little more slowly, give yourself a little more grace, rest more, allow your body to get into ketosis, focus on stress-free activities, and you would see that increase. The other reason that you would maybe see a change in your T3 specifically is because when you are in ketosis, you actually may not need as high of a T3 number in order to feel just as good, if that makes sense. So basically what this means is that your body is actually more efficient through ketone production. And when your body is more efficient, you might have slightly lower T3 numbers, and that's not a bad thing. We're finding out that that's actually a really pretty good thing, especially as it relates to ketosis, because your body is just working that much easier. And really what's funny is the higher level of T3 when you are a sugar burner versus a fat burner, what that extra T3 is doing is going to metabolize glucose anyways. So if you don't need to metabolize glucose, we could have that down production of T3, and this is free T3, by the way. You may not even notice. You may still feel great. So keep that in mind too, that there is just maybe less of a need for your free T3 to be where it was before. And now we can kind of lower it down, still feel just as good, not feel any of the symptoms of being hypothyroid, and go on with life in ketosis. It's just great. Just this week, actually, in the Fat Burning Female group, one of the ladies posted a really awesome blog post by Mark Sisson on marksdailyapple.com that really talks about most of the stuff I talked about today in his post about, is keto bad for the thyroid? So I will link this up in the show notes, but definitely go check that out if you are someone that's nervous about your thyroid and ketosis, or just wants to learn more about what actually happens to the thyroid when it's in a state of ketosis. Really cool, but kind of lays out some of what I mentioned here today. So I hope that helps. Let's move on. This one is a big question I get very often. It'll be good. I actually, again, have two people asking the same question. We'll start here with Vanessa. She says, "Hello, Sean. I recently found your podcast and I love it. Thank you for doing it. It's been super informative. Actually, on my way to work, I was listening to your show with Leah, your first real life keto interview. At the end of the show, you mentioned that it is important to know why you are doing this. I thought back on my why, and at first it was to lose weight to prepare for pregnancy. But now, as I am learning so much about insulin and hormones and how it all works together for or against us, my why has changed. I am doing this to heal my body. I want to be able to naturally heal my body for health reasons, not vain ones. I've been overweight my whole life, so vanity is not an issue for me, LOL. I am hearing and reading mixed things on our fat macro. I've heard that it is just a limit, and if we are already fat, we shouldn't be eating more fat. But listening to not only your podcast, but also Jimmy Moore's, I hear a lot about how eating the fat is super important. Both sides make sense to me, and I just don't want to be eating all the fat if I'm heavy, but I don't want to not be eating enough either. I am purchasing a ketone meter so that I can gauge my ketones and know when I am in ketosis. Thank you, Vanessa." And the second one here, I have a question. If you have excess fat in your body to lose, do you then adjust your macros and eat less fat, therefore tapping into the fat you already have? Thanks, Lori. Okay, great questions. Lori and Vanessa are just two of many people that ask this question, I know. So let's talk about it, shall we? The first thing that we have to remember is that I guess on a very basic level, fat, I've said this before, fat in your food, so dietary fat, is not the same thing as fat on your body. So it's not like when you eat 2 tablespoons of butter, it's going to go sit on your thighs or your love handles until you burn it off. That's not how it works. It may seem like that, but that's not actually what happens, which we know, of course. We know that doesn't happen if you actually think about that. So a ketogenic diet is a high-fat, low-carb diet for a reason. It's not just a low-carb diet like we just talked about, which will get you into trouble potentially with your health if you're just low-carb and not eating enough fat. So that fat is needed for so many reasons. And to know that before you went keto, there's a good chance that you, the general you out there, were not eating enough fat just as a nice, healthy diet. We were probably a little too low fat, and then you go keto and you just really think you're eating so much fat. However, even a non-keto diet still needs to have a really pretty significant amount of fat in order to be balanced and in order to be healthy and nutrient dense. But we're talking about ketosis here, which really takes that to the next level. And the reason why we need that extra fat intake is to actually produce ketones. We need fatty acids to produce ketones. Ketones are what then signal to burn fat as fuel. So we need the high fat to get into a state of ketosis and produce the ketones. You're not going to get into that state and produce ketones if your fat is too low. And it's a significant amount of fat. And you will find that out if you are in the Fat Burning Female Project. You will see that real quick. But then also if you are doing this on your own and you're not eating enough fat and you can't get into ketosis. And then as soon as you bump up the fat and start eating 3, 4, 5 more tablespoons per day, maybe 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, depending on how low fat you actually are right now and trying to get into ketosis, then you will see that big change. So keep that in mind. First of all, I want to go through just the smallest list ever. There's so many other things that fatty acids do in our body that we need dietary fat for, but here's just a few. We need fatty acids to build every single cell membrane of every single cell in our body. Okay, so that's pretty important. Something that we would want definitely adequate dietary fat for. Also, we need the fat in our diet to build our hormones. We need fat in our diet to support and cleanse our liver and keep our bile production nice and smooth and free flowing. So we need that to, of course, break down our fats, but then also really help and support our liver, even through the detox pathways. Our brain is made up of fat. So we need fatty acids to support and power up our brain. Those are just a few of the huge ones. Another one, again, being ketone production, which is where we take that to the next level if you are someone that wants to be in ketosis. So just keep that in mind that when you have fat on your plate, it is going through so much more than just sitting there in your fat cells waiting to be burned. It has a lot more benefit, power, and need in our daily activities, in our daily lives, and in a healthy female. Another thing to remember is that, again, it's not like every single bite of fat that you eat, even if you eat enough to go through all of these daily processes, every cell of your body is covered, all your hormones are built and balanced, and you eat more fat than that, we also don't automatically store and keep all that fat. Some of it is passed as well into your stool. So keep that in mind too, that it's not like you automatically hold on to every single gram of fat that you eat. So when you think about it that way, when you know that you don't hold on to all the fat, when you know how many, and I didn't even go through all of them, that's like half of the reasons why we need fatty acids in our bodies, then you can understand why eating high fat isn't going to keep you from losing fat, because we need it for so many other purposes. It's not just going and being stored there. You probably, if you're listening to this show, are at least interested somewhat in getting into ketosis. So you have to get into ketosis and produce ketones, which are kind of that magic power, in my opinion, of really getting healthy. Make that the goal and eat the amount of fat that your body needs to get into ketosis. And don't worry about, well, am I not going to burn fat then because I'm eating this much fat? That they don't correlate. You have to produce ketones. That's what will burn fat. And when you do start producing ketones and getting into fat burning mode, what's cool is that your body can do both at the same time. Your body can burn through dietary fat and through fat stores at the same time. It's not a one or the other thing. It's not preferentially using dietary fat. It can be a both thing. So, when you think about it that way, it kind of just becomes irrelevant because your body's going to do that. Now, if you're holding on to weight, go back and listen to episodes 10 and 11. It is a symptom of something else going on. And even we know even from Vanessa's question that she is learning more about her insulin and more than likely she has maybe some healing to do with her insulin levels. Well, we have to get into ketosis to heal those insulin levels, or we don't have to, but it would be really nice if you did. It would make it a little bit easier. So then your goal becomes, I need to eat the amount of fat to get and stay in ketosis. Is it the same for everybody? No. So you need to determine that for yourself. I think Vanessa's idea of getting her ketone meter in order to get her readings and understand how much fat her body thrives on is really important. That is your determining factor on how much fat you should be eating, not how much weight you think you need to lose or how much fat you think your body is burning through or whatever. That's totally erroneous. We don't even know the answer to that question. You can't determine that. So just focus on getting into ketosis, eating the amount of fat and food that your body needs in order to do that, and you should be good. Okay, let's see if we can sneak one more in here, maybe two if I can answer these quickly. These are both from Crystal. She had two separate questions, which both of them I loved. Good morning. Thank you for starting the Keto for Women podcast. It has been great so far, and I've really enjoyed the information. I had an idea for a podcast topic or two. Gut health has been a topic I'm seeing more and more lately, especially in regards to overall health and wellness. My question is, does staying on a keto diet inhibit the broad range of gut flora bacteria since it limits various types of food we eat? For example, the higher carb veggies and fruit. Love this question. It actually is a pretty quick answer, so this is going to be great, but I do also have my own personal experience too. There is a lot of naysayers for sure on the keto diet as it relates to gut health. What that is not showing you though is that when someone is kind of talking negatively about that, their picture of the keto diet is like meat, eggs, cheese, heavy cream, and that's pretty much it. That's all they're eating. So it's kind of this like stereotypical keto diet, which is when people were first going keto, maybe that is what they ate. But now we're seeing that most people that follow a ketogenic diet do really well and stay in ketosis and get a lot of healing benefits, even with adding vegetables. So that's the really important piece. And that's what I promote is this real food, high veggie keto diet. There's a big, big difference. And the high veggies, whether it be higher carb veggies like sweet potatoes, beets, squash, those kind of things, or a lower carb veggie diet, which would be things like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, kale, chard. Those things are equally as awesome for our gut. As you can tell just from the list I gave off, those are fibrous veggies. And what we really need is that fiber in those vegetables. That's what really helps our gut and it feeds our microbiome and maintains that healthy balance of good gut flora. As long as you are including vegetables on a regular basis, and by regular I mean pretty much every meal, you're good. Of course, I'm always a believer in a really nice, good probiotic regimen. I think getting on some great probiotics and pretty much staying on them for life is going to be important nowadays. But your keto diet is going to help that 100%. Just make sure you're getting lots of awesome vegetables. If you want them to be higher carb sometimes, cool, do it. You're fine. You'll be just fine. You'll either stay in ketosis or maybe you'll get out for a couple hours and get right back in. But if a sweet potato is calling to you and you really want that, then do it. But you don't have to either. If you would rather stick with like kale and lettuce, these big giant salads with tons of fat on them, then that's also awesome. That's pretty much what I do with an occasional beet or carrot or sweet potato mixed in. And my gut health has never been better. And I am someone who has a background of really poor gut health because I have ulcerative colitis, although it has now been in remission for 3 years, almost, I think 3 years. So quite a long time. And I've done colonoscopies. I've done multiple GI stool tests. And this past one I actually just did, maybe a month and a half ago, the best that it has ever been. My gut flora is really strong. I have really nice levels of good gut bacteria, even when not using my probiotics, and no pathogenic bacteria. And my bowel movements are very regular, and this may be too much for some people, but as someone with ulcerative colitis, having normal bowel movements is the most rewarding thing on the planet when you have had a past of having anything but and just being stuck in the bathroom all day. As you can see, I don't mind talking about poop by any means. I talk about it pretty much every day, all day. So I have no problems discussing it. And I think it's something that we actually need to talk about more, especially as women. It's like this, pun intended, poo-poo subject, but we need to talk about it more because it really is a window into your health. And like for me, when I started having really regular bowel movements, when I saw that my gut bacteria was thriving, and I have been keto for a year now, it just proves that that's not a true statement, then that we can have awesome gut health while being in ketosis. Just include those vegetables. If anything, I probably eat more veggies now on keto because it's such an easy vehicle for fat. Who doesn't want to put a couple pats of butter on their broccoli or some homemade ranch dressing on their salad? It just makes all the difference in the world. It makes me love vegetables even more. So I know that I'm eating more veggies now than I ever have, and that's what's really important. The second one from Crystal is about intermittent fasting and a keto diet. Would you recommend a time frame to wait to start intermittent fasting when starting a keto diet? I began keto on April 10th and began to incorporate intermittent 16/8 fasting on June 5th. For those that don't know, 16/8 fasting would be 16 hours of an overnight fast, followed by 8 hours of eating. So for instance, it could be that you have dinner at 6 p.m., you don't eat again until 10 a.m., which would be 16 hours, and then you eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, or whatever. You eat enough food between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. That's what that means. You can do that as intermittently as you like when it's intermittent fasting. So you could do that every day, every other day, once a week, whatever you want. You can change up the hours. There's lots that you can do. And we can talk more about fasting. I'll probably at some point do a whole episode about it. But let's just answer Crystal's question quickly, which is, how long do you recommend waiting to be in ketosis? First of all, I definitely think that you should make absolutely positively sure that you are in a nice deep state of ketosis prior to starting intermittent fasting. So make sure that your body definitely knows that it's safe, that there's plenty of fat stores available for your energy production, and then go from there. Now, I really recommend making sure, especially as a female with these hormones that love to go awry at a moment's notice, to make sure that you are really nice and balanced and healthy as far as your hormones go, your thyroid, your adrenals. Just get all that in check first and know for a fact that you're good there, and then try intermittent fasting. So those are basically two requirements before you start fasting. If either or both of those are not in place, then the fasting is actually going to do more harm than good, which I truly believe in fasting. I think that obviously the benefits are many for fasting. However, those benefits are only going to be beneficial if you're in the right spot, if it's the right time for you and your body can handle it. Now, there may be some exceptions to these two rules, which would be if you're someone who is severely insulin resistant, has diabetes, or you're obese. And those are things that you need to regulate right now in order to gain health, then go ahead and fast. Get into ketosis, make sure you're in this nice deep state of ketosis, and then go ahead and fast in order to spur some further healing to where you are at a point where you have healed those pretty serious things that you have going on. And then you can kind of decide if fasting is continually right for you or how that works. But if you are someone who just wants to fast maybe for the extra 10, 20 pounds, or maybe you just want some of the other health benefits that come with it, the autophagy, the reduced inflammation, the immune system regulation. Again, we're getting most of those benefits just through ketosis, first of all. And second of all, those are only going to be as beneficial as your body is ready to take on those benefits. If you're not quite ready, then you will actually see less benefit and take on more symptoms and more things you have to try to fix and manage. Another thing that's really important is to not force it. If you just naturally forget to eat breakfast until 10 or 11, okay, cool. Then you just did an intermittent fast and you didn't even know it. But do not force it. If you are hungry, eat. That is super, super important to maintaining this homeostasis and this healing path in your body. So keep that in mind. And also make sure that you are not sacrificing nutrients and energy just because you've shortened your eating window. So you still need to get lots of veggies, lots of fat, moderate amount of protein, and get the food that you need in that shorter window. So keep that in mind. Again, I do have a personal story that I can share with you all. I know I mentioned it in past episodes, and now it's just becoming more and more obvious to me because let me just tell you the story and it'll all make sense. I needed to fast for health reasons and in order to get my health back on track. However, I was also still dealing with adrenal issues and my hormones were not quite 100%. They're pretty close, but still had some work to do. But I started fasting anyway because at that time for me, the benefits of fasting were more important. And I really needed to get my chronic inflammatory response syndrome under control. So I did start intermittent fasting, then it went into more extended fasts and whatever. And it was great. I got the healing that I needed. It went well. I enjoyed it. However, I started seeing changes in my hormones. I began having more symptoms of adrenal fatigue, and my periods started getting further and further apart. I also do track my cycles, which I highly recommend for all women, but I track my cycles using an app. I was no longer ovulating. So for me, there was an additional stress that my body was under through this fasting, which makes sense. It's pretty intuitive to understand that not eating is going to be a stressor on your body, even if you are in ketosis. And I wasn't ready for that. And so I began seeing these changes in my cycles because I am someone that really, really finds the value and the health status of having normal menstrual cycles. I had a feeling that was the case with the fasting. I cut it out. And now 2 months later, I've not fasted for 2 months straight now. And my hormones are already back on track. I just tested them and my adrenals are 100% and my hormones are 100%. And that includes DHEA, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. I'm all good. I'm back to 100%. I really do think that while the fasting was great for certain things, it disrupted other things. And I found that out kind of the hard way because I don't really want to lose my period ever again. I don't want to see any wonky hormones in my body ever again because I've gone through years and years and years of that. And so it meant a lot to me to get my cycles regular. I'm still feeling just as good, just eating keto without fasting. I know I'm still getting the benefits. The rest of my blood tests and everything are great. So I know I'm still healthy and I'm still doing the health thing even without fasting. So I don't want you to think that it's absolutely necessary either. There is no need to be in ketosis and fast. It is not one and the same. They are not. While they're connected quite a bit in the keto community, they do not need to be. You're not less of a ketonian if you're not also fasting. So keep that in mind too. Definitely do you be really clear that it is the right time for you to begin fasting before you do. Don't jump into it without knowing for sure that your body is ready. That's all I will say. This is specific to women too. So if your mate is male, or you have friends that are male and they're able to fast all day and all night and whatever, and they're just fine, then just remember, we're different. We're a little different. We have these hormones that, again, like to go awry at a moment's notice. The second there's any sort of stressor on the body, and not feeding your body is going to be a stressor when we're used to having 3 meals a day for our entire lives, and then we don't. So keep that in mind. Make sure that you are in the right place to where fasting would be more beneficial than harmful. Okay, we'll wrap this episode up here. I think we got through some great questions. Thank you, ladies, so much for sending those in, and I'll be looking for more if you have any further questions on any of these topics or anything else. Don't forget, if you want to be part of the Fat Burning Female Project, September 6th, put it on your calendar, or go to bit.ly/fatburningfemale now and sign up for the email updates. And I will remind you September 6th, I will send out an email saying that enrollment is open. And I'm super excited for the next class. It's going to be so much fun. Can't wait to meet you all and work with you a little closer and make sure you're doing keto the right way. So until then, I will chat with you all next week. Have a great one.